Word magic has the power to create, shape, and manipulate reality. It can build up, tear down, inspire, and intimidate. In the hands of skilled manipulators, words are weapons that control and manipulate the world. Word wizardry is at the root level of every system of control. As Philip K. Dick once said, the basic tool for the manipulation of reality is the manipulation of words. If you can control the meaning of words, you can control the people who must use them. Upon the conclusion of this video, a very profound realization shall dawn upon you, that word wizardry possesses an unparalleled power to shape the thoughts of the masses. This is not a mere expression, but a fundamental truth that pervades our lives. But before we delve into that, let's first talk about the depths behind language use and the power structures that lie in those depths. Words are the building blocks of language, and the way we use them can have a profound impact on our interactions with others. One of the earliest skills we learn in school is how to correctly spell, which is no coincidence. Spelling and casting spells are essentially the same. Words are only powerful when they're spelled correctly. That's how the systems of control assert power. For them, language is made not to be believed or to be informational, but to be obeyed. And you have to know how to read correctly to be able to understand your orders and obey them. This is what we mean by the power behind word magic. That's why what interests us is the occult history of the English language. Let's first start with a simple definition. The word occult is typically associated with supernatural or mystical beliefs and practices that are often considered outside the realm of conventional science or religion. The root of the word comes from the Latin word occultus, which means hidden or concealed. The term was first used in the 16th century to describe secret knowledge and practices that shed light upon a deeper understanding of the universe and our place within it. It's sacred wisdom. Some people use the term occult to refer to practices or beliefs that are considered taboo or controversial in mainstream culture. For us, we embrace occult knowledge as a path to personal growth or spiritual enlightenment. The roots of our writing system can be traced back to the origin of the alphabet. While the history is complex, the Phoenicians are credited with developing the first alphabet, which laid the groundwork for the modern Western alphabet used today. The Greek alphabet, which added vowels, was derived from it, and from there it spread across Europe and the world. However, the development of the alphabet was not purely for the sake of communication. The Phoenician alphabet was revolutionary for its time as it standardized language and allowed for efficient record-keeping and communication across all the Mediterranean Sea. They created it as a means to enhance their maritime trading activities by establishing a more efficient system for record-keeping, creating binding contracts, and commercial communication. Among the goods that the Phoenicians traded and needed records for are slaves. Standardizing language, therefore, was not a bottom-up initiative, but a top-down imposition of the Phoenician Empire, which was later adopted and further developed by other empires, including the Roman Empire. This practice of using binding documents written in a standardized language is a hallmark of empires throughout history, including the US, which has taken this tradition to new heights with modern technology. It's important to recognize the modern matrix of globalization, imperialism, and capitalism has originated from that ancient tradition. What's fascinating about this knowledge of the roots of the alphabet is that we still use expressions from maritime activities to this day without even noticing it. Just consider how we say cast a spell, which is similar to casting a net into the sea. Also, notice how money is put into banks, which are edges of a river, all of which flow into the current of the sea. You know, cash flows and currencies. And of course, every currency is tied to a national identity, a citizenship, a citizenship. You get your citizenship, or rather you board the citizenship when you're given your birth certificate. In ports and harbors, a berth refers to a predetermined location where a vessel can be anchored, primarily to facilitate the efficient loading and unloading of cargo. And how do you get a birth certificate? Your parents register you. The root of the word comes from the Latin word registrum, which was derived from the word regis, which meant of a king. In a sense, you become a state ownership, bound by the block capital letters they use to label you. That's how the state asserts its leadership. That's the spell that they cast to fish you and make it official. The roots of official come from the Latin word officium, which means duty or service. It's your duty to serve the empire from day one. It's also similar to how corporation names, corps, or corpses are written. You become a walking corpse that they own. The word corpse comes from the Latin word corpus. Corpus has its roots in the Proto-Indo-European word crep, which meant body or form. With that in mind, your birth certificate and registration make you estate ownership because they reduce you to a form, a legal fiction. They can seize you like a car whenever they want as long as you're bound by the legal name you're registered with, which is merely a word that should be spelt correctly. Remember that the roots of standardized language come from people who used to trade slaves. That's why in courts they sentence verdicts with the legal names. You're registered in the logbook like a car, a registered keeper of your body or form, not the owner. That's how the state can seize you whenever it wants. So now we've established that your rulers don't see you as a living divine being, but a dead entity, let's move on. The lunacy, or the lunar sea of the English language, is really something to marvel at. You have to seek the occult to find the connections in words and the hidden patterns that modern linguistics and official dictionaries refuse to recognize. With that in mind, it's essential to understand the etymology of words. Understanding the roots of the language we use is essential. Etymology shows us that the true meaning of seemingly innocent words can be sinister. For example, the root of the word contract is truly something to think about whenever you're about to sign one. The word can be divided into con and tract. On the one hand, con has several meanings, depending on the context in which it is used. Con can mean connect, contribute, cooperate, but also conspire. As a verb, con means to deceive or to trick. On the other hand, we have tract, which means a little book, treatise. It's a shortened form of Latin tractatus, a handling, treatise, treatment from tractare to handle. Put the two together and you get a contract, a magical little world that we use on a daily basis to mean a legally binding agreement between two or more parties that outlines the terms and conditions of a specific transaction or relationship. With that in mind, you're either signing a deceptive treatise by binding your name to a contract, or you're the one trying to deceive someone to do so. We often refer to the legal language as legalese because it's certainly not the English we all use. It's a form of deceptive word wizardry that turns the devil's work into something acceptable in the minds of people. Consider how many criminals escape punishment merely because of their lawyers, who are masters of this deceptive art of wordplay and word gymnastics. On the flip side, the legalese language can turn innocent people and ideas into criminals or liabilities, due to its technical and often convoluted nature. The court system is essentially a linguistic game. However, it's important to note that legalese is not inherently deceptive, but rather a specialized language that has the power to do good as much as it can also do evil. True power lies in being aware of the meaning behind this magical language. This is why etymology is important. Deconstructing words etymologically and phonologically also shows us that other meanings are suppressed or forgotten. Words that share the same sounds often cluster in the same category. For example, philosophy is merely the love of Sophia. The concept of Sophia in Gnostic tradition is a divine feminine figure who represents wisdom and the spiritual essence of the earth. The term Gnostic is derived from the Greek word gnosis, meaning knowledge. A philosopher is someone who loves Sophia and her wisdom. You don't necessarily have to study formal philosophy, publish books, and do TED Talks to be named a philosopher. As a matter of fact, the father of Western philosophy, Socrates, was merely a man who had a skeptical mind and liked to question reality to better understand what life is all about. He was a lover of wisdom, a wizard if you may, who shares his thoughts in the form of wise words. His word wizardry, which shattered the illusions that the Greek ruling class used to rule their society, was so threatening that they had to eventually put him in a double bind. He can either accept to be expelled and to fade away from public consciousness, or to voluntarily drink the poison to immortalize his name and to inspire the future generations to listen to his spells. We are those distant ones who compelled Socrates to drink that poison with a smile. As he drank the hemlock, which was the method of execution in Athens at the time, Socrates engaged in a philosophical discussion with his friends and followers, and did not show any fear or distress. He remained faithful to Sophia and her love until the end. Though a tragedy, we're all grateful that Socrates chose the latter option. As a matter of fact, he was happy to do so because that's what his intuition told him. Occult knowledge comes from a place of intuition, which is intelligence beyond intellect. The difference between intellect and intelligence is one being masculine and the other being feminine. Intellect is about linear logic and being able to interpret and regurgitate information, which is great, but not sufficient when you need to understand the deep structures of the Matrix. Intelligence is feminine. It's about intuition, profoundly understanding and discerning truth from illusion. This combination of both intellect and intelligence is what the alchemists call the divine wedding of the opposites, which is the great work, the magnum opus. Modern-day academia doesn't acknowledge the importance of the combination of intellect and intelligence. That's why it lost its title as the University. The word university has its roots in Latin language. It comes from the Latin word universitas, which means the whole or the entire. This word was originally used to describe a community of scholars and teachers who were united in the pursuit of knowledge. Now, that which was once whole and entire is now divided. Intellect was turned against intelligence. The feminine and the masculine are in conflict, and this is why universities these days are a battleground for conflicting ideologies, where people cast spells upon one another to determine whose magical language is more powerful. Universities used to make wizards who speak and write wise words. Now they have become mass producers of tricksters and manipulators who master word trickery and treachery, but to their detriment and that of their illusory social machines. All shallow concepts and systems eventually burst and collapse from the inside out, even before being stricken. This is a theme that we can see in many great stories with a huge symbolic significance. For example, the story of the Tower of Babylon is a symbol of hubris, pride, and a kind of national pride that leads to standardizing language to control citizens through their citizenship contracts, enforcing control from the top down. Natural systems evolve from the bottom up. The current system is counter to nature. It's alien to Earth because it enforces evolution from the top down, which is why there are all sorts of social problems that plague the modern world that even extend to global catastrophes and planetary emergencies. Remember the old cliché, divide and rule. It's actually quite accurate. When people are divided and work against one another, it's much easier to rule them and manipulate them. Notice how the news spread propaganda by using words that create social division and paranoia, and prescribe how to deal with artificial and made-up problems. A great example of such news coverage can be seen in the events related to a recent global event that plagues our collective memory. During the whole period, everyone was afraid of a virus that can easily be inoculated against if the immune system is exposed to it. What is more sinister than the fear of this relatively harmless virus are the mind viruses that spread through the media and cyberspace, which still plague people's minds. This brings us back to the idea of intellect losing its divine alchemical wedding with intelligence. Many experts and great intellects were fooled by the word wizardry of occult powerful systems of control to regurgitate information that served only the empire, while people with intelligence and those who combined the two were silenced, cancelled, ridiculed, accused of misinformation, and so on. Advertisers also use word magic to make you buy things you don't need, merely to keep a soul-crushing corporate job with a contract and to afford a superficial life that rarely brings any satisfaction. A pile of feces can be commoditized to be worth the same as 10 grams of gold if it was assigned with a word or associated with a certain set of associations. With the right magic keywords, even feces can be sold in exchange for gold, especially with cyberspace and all of the twisted spirits that occupy this realm. See how these modern influencers are selling bathwater and farts for their followers for decent amounts of money to realize the degree of lunacy that words can cause. Magic has the power to turn something worthless that everyone wants to get rid of into a valuable commodity. An interesting term that comes from American slang for an adulterous man is a trick. A trick is someone tricked to pay for something that's supposed to be free. Love is something we get for free because all is love. The Matrix is a trickery system that distorts this love and twists it. The aim is to keep you a slave to production and consumption that only perpetuates this alien matrix system. Hence the battery metaphor in the 1999 movie, which is a movie many misunderstand or not profoundly understand. The word metaphor comes from the Greek word metaphora, which means transfer or carrying over. The prefix meta means beyond or transcending, while phora comes from the Greek word pharin, which means to carry or to bear. Remember how Christ speaks in metaphors, aphorisms, parables. Metaphors and parables are powerful linguistic tools. Word wizards often know very well how to transmit the truth on an intuitive level using such word magic. The truth cannot be suppressed. Jesus says, "The kingdom of heaven is like a grain of mustard seed that a man took and sowed in his field. It is the smallest of all seeds, but when it has grown, it is larger than all the garden plants and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and make nests in its branches." This parable, spoken by Christ in the Gospel, compares the kingdom of heaven to a tiny seed that grows into a massive plant, providing shelter for birds. It is a symbol of the power of Christ's logos, the Word of God, and the consciousness it represents. Note that the true meaning of the word gospel simply means God spell or good spell. It comes from the Old English word Godspell, which means good message. The Greek word from which it was derived is evangelion, which also means good news or good message. As the philosopher Nietzsche once wrote, "All firstlings shall die, are ye firstlings?" Christ, Socrates, and many others died cruel deaths so that the word of truth, the logos, could spread and information could be shared freely. We may not be the firstlings, but we must still do our part to contribute to the collapse of this dark empire of deception through small sacrifices. Let us take inspiration from the mustard seed and work to spread knowledge and truth, no matter how small our efforts may seem. All prophets and great philosophers are master orators who use language and words to fight against enslavement and the worship of false idols, which are deceptive symbols, lies and corruptions of reality and the human mind. And their legacy has never stopped, it just transformed. Many great word masters and linguistic wizards like Philip K. Dick, Friedrich Nietzsche, Rudolf Steiner, and Carl Jung are considered by many as modern-day prophetic figures, and many of us, lovers of wisdom, philosophers, and wizards, are already here in cyberspace creating our universe cyber cities. Modern-day prophetic figures are many. Information is spreading faster than before. We're at the dawn of a new era. It's a new paradigm shift where we enter a new eon of human history. The fight against the Dark Empire is constant. We're all soldiers, so choose your side. Now, here's what you can do. Master the art of articulate speech and the skill to decipher the deep structures of meaning behind the words and language we use. That's how you become a powerful word wizard who cannot be tricked by word trickery. Keep a journal where you cast the content of your mind into spells. See how you can be creative in how you use language. Notice how certain words affect you when you pronounce them or hear their vibrations, and seek mentorship when needed. The Gospel of John teaches us that the Word was present in the beginning, and that the Word was with God and was God. Though every word also contains its opposite, such as light and darkness or good and evil, the existence of evil does not mean that we should stop doing good, nor does it justify us choosing not to do good. We have the power to create the world we want to live in through our words and actions. The words we use have the power to assign good or evil, and those who control the language have the power to shape history. It's important to remember that the devil is just a word, and those who have a godly arsenal of powerful spells have the ability to overcome the darkness. We should focus on creating a positive reality through our words and actions. Although evil exists, we should not dwell on it, but rather concentrate on spreading love and kindness. Our simplest words and actions have the power to create and shape our reality. Let's end the video here with a powerful spell from Nietzsche. "All I need is a sheet of paper and something to write with, and then I can turn the whole world upside down."